And now, I would like to bring forward Amelia Schwab from the Hackley School. And I'm going to read a brief comment by her teachers, and I quote, "Amelia's teachers have described her as a fiercely independent, passionate defender of the marginalized, the exploited, the persecuted, and, most importantly, a righteous warrior." It gives me great pleasure and also personal. I've known Amelia for a long time. I was blessed to have her as a young intern when she was still in middle school, and I see her now. And having Kerry Kennedy here is our next generation of human rights defenders. Amelia.
So it's kind of funny that Donna brings up that I was involved with the organization when I was younger, because when I was preparing for what I was going to say tonight, I was thinking a little bit about how 11-year-old or 12-year-old me kind of was back here a few years ago. But 11 or 12-year-old me had this whole nice typed up presentation that I had gone over with Donna, and almost 16-year-old me has some notes written on the back of an article. But I think that kind of says a lot about the journey that I went through as an advocate, as an activist, as a defender of human rights. Because I started out I had this upbringing where my parents had taught me all about the Holocaust, as my grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and my great-grandmother's picture is actually in the basement of the HHREC with the whole survivors. They have like a display kind of thing. So I definitely had this conception about what human rights is and why it's important in thinking about my family's history and in just thinking about people's rights in general. And then, I started getting involved with this organization because after a Saved Our Food rally that I went to in Washington, D.C., when I was in 6th grade, I realized that, wow, there's like really horrible things and really big threats to injustice and the equality of human value that are happening today. And when I went to that rally and I decided to come back, and that day I decided that, I'm going to be a human rights advocate. I'm going to be an activist. So my mom had known a little bit about this organization through my grandma, who's here today, and it's awesome, and through my great-grandma. And so I interned here, and I did a speech here. And through my internship, actually, I was reading through all the different surveys from the Student Institute, and I had all the feedback about different workshops, and people were talking about all the issues that they had learned about. And so my scope of all really the injustice that's going on in the world definitely widened, and I realized that there are all these issues and there are all these things going on. And so I kind of took that to heart, and I tried to do as much of it as I could in all these different areas. So at school, I started doing presentations on Darfur, and I joined the Gay Straight Alliance, and I became active in diversity at my school, and now I'm one of the presidents of the environmental organization, after I had found out about environmental justice and issues of environmental racism, and I'm the president of the Gay Straight Alliance. And so I think that, as I kind of came from this upbringing of, okay, this is like human rights, this is really important, it got a little bit more messy as I learned about all the things that are going on in the world and how all these different things intersect. But I think what the organization did for me is it all connected it back to the Holocaust, and it connected it back to this idea that, the Martin Luther King quote, a threat to justice anywhere, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So I kind of tried to keep that in mind as I was doing all my activism and get involved in everything that I could. And I really do believe that you have to kind of widen your scope, think about all the different issues that are going on in the world. And like Kerry Kennedy said, you have to find that thing that you're really drawn to, and that will give you the purpose and the drive to go through life. And it, for me, has been an incredible source of fulfillment. And I think everybody here is doing a great job of that, looking at all of you who are very much involved in this organization. And I commend everybody for that. So that's kind of
Our next winner is Danny Ullman, and he's been quoted by his teachers as being known as an extraordinary human being, someone who is not in it for the social accolades, but as someone who is humble and pure of heart, a person who inspires people to break their silences, reach out, and be part of the wondrous. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Danny Ullman.
I am truly honored to be here tonight and to be receiving the Richard A. Berman Leadership Award for Human Rights. I have a passion to help the homeless, a passion that I trace its roots back to growing up in New York City and feeling helpless as I walk by men and women living on the street. 2 years ago, I was invited to attend the Human Rights Student Institute. Not quite knowing what to expect, I walked away from the experience with the only type of wealth you can never lose, a wealth of ideas and an abundance of passion, focused on how I could better work to promote the human rights. Last year, I founded an organization called Hearth for All, designed to help meet the immediate needs of the homeless, as well as to raise awareness about homelessness here in our very own community of Westchester County. The Institute has helped me discover how I can best advocate for those I seek to help. It has guided me as I develop Hearth for All, and as I continue to help those who lack even the most basic necessities of daily life. I'm committed to continuing my work with the homeless, just as I am committed to advocating for human rights as a whole. Many of my relatives perished in the Holocaust. It is important to me that we never forget human rights violations of the past, as we work to combat human rights injustices in the present and seek to prevent ones from arising in the future. I deeply appreciate the opportunity the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center has afforded me, guiding me and helping me learn how I can advocate for human rights as a whole. I want to say a special thank you to my teacher, my mentor, and the person who nominated me, Dr. Kenyon. Thank you for this honor, and just as importantly, thank you for all of the education that you have instilled within me. Thank you.